What's going on? This is Scott Churchson, and this is Tales from the Film Set. And welcome to Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV channel 250 and 251. Please remember to download the Zingo TV app on the iOS stores and Android device stores. These apps are free. Feel free to rate and leave a comment. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire, Fire TV sticks, Roku and Roku sticks, and all smart TVs 2016 and forward. Hope you guys are doing well out there. Like I said, this is Tales from the Film Set, where we get together and discuss all the weird things that have happened in the film industry, what's going on in the movie world, the TV world, and today in the voice acting world. I have been wanting to do a show like this for a little while, so I'm finally getting the chance. Joining me today, I got two people in the voiceover world. Mr. Maxwell McGee, first of all, who is a teacher and voice actor out of the Connecticut area. And alongside him, we have Mr. Dan Goldhaber out of Atlanta, despite the Yankee hat that he's wearing with pride. How you gentlemen doing?
Originally from New Jersey.
So you guys doing well tonight?
Doing great. Happy to be here. Here. Nice to meet you, Max.
Yeah, nice to meet you as well. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, like I said, I've been wanting to do a voiceover and voice acting show for a little while now. And this is actually as good a time as any. So wanted to take the time to go into the ins and outs of it, what to look for, what not to look for, mistakes to avoid. That's definitely going to be part of it too, because as the saying goes, you only get one chance to make a good impression. And as the three of us will probably be able to attest to, a bad reel will kill you instantly. And I think we've all come across it in one facet or form. And as I was mentioning to Dan prior to the show starting, I've probably made a few of my own at some point. So when we start this off, Max, tell us about yourself, what you do, roll with it.
Absolutely. Well, I am a professor of voiceover, public speaking, virtual reality, extended reality technologies, multimedia at several universities across the Connecticut area. I'm also the CEO and founder of McGee Communications Consulting. One of the things that we offer is voiceover coaching and consulting for that as well. And I've been a voice actor for many, many years. I would say around 10 years. For a couple of years, I did do it full time. Of course, as all of my friends and family know and sometimes complain about, I'm always switching around and diving into new worlds, into new businesses, but I love media. I love entertainment. I've been doing all of this, especially in multimedia, video, audio. I was an audio engineer, director, producer, ever since I was a kid. That's how long I would say I've been doing this as far as voiceovers. You've heard me all over the place. You've heard me in commercials for Cadillac, Applebee's, 99, whatever it is. There's a good chance that you've heard my voice on the radio, on television, on a different TV show for different promos. And I've loved every second of it. And really my whole background is in every facet of the world of communications. And again, I've loved every second of it. It's been beautiful.
Nice. Dan, I know this is a newish territory for you, but I know you're building, like I said, we were talking before the show, you're out of the Atlanta area, which we've defined as Hollywood South, and Lord knows there's a lot of work to be found in that area.
Absolutely.
Not just in the TV arena, but also in the voice acting aspect as well, which is thankfully very nationwide now. Mm-hmm. Surprisingly, in the New Jersey area where I am, there's not a whole lot to be found. Does it mean it's okay? But I think there's a lot more to be found in some of the other places as well. So we're going to be diving into that equipment and really just kind of rolling with it there. This show, by the way, you can also talk to us as well on Instagram and Facebook at Tales from the Film Set, and also on Twitter at Film Set Tales. So why don't we start this off? The whole idea, obviously, like we mentioned before, is starting with a strong impression, getting the ball rolling, getting things going. My first acting coach, Max, is somebody I think you knew. My name is Jeffrey Dreisbach. Jeff actually is also a teacher here in the New York area on really like TV and dramatic arts, but he was also the first voice actor that I ever had. And when it comes to the reel and basically what to look for and building on that, give me, in this case, the best you've ever heard and frankly, the worst you've ever heard.
As far as people that I've heard before, voice actors.
Yeah,
I've heard before.
And basically it's like, hey, take a look at my reel. Take a look at what I've got. Look at this. Isn't this amazing? Take a look at it. Sometimes you're impressed and sometimes you're depressed, probably.
I that's such a great question. I think the worst. I'll start with the worst because it's. I like to follow the American Idol model where everybody always wants to hear the worst first. Was it was kind of a younger kid, 18, 19, kind of coming up in the industry, and my dad had met him. I don't know, I think at a gas station. My dad is a very, very friendly man. And this kid apparently was, even though he was working at the gas station, he was also passing out business cards. I don't think you're supposed to do that for his voiceover business. And I checked out the reels that he sent me. And he wanted to do kind of like D. Bradley Baker does, more so like monster sound effects, different characters that aren't necessarily a full-blown character. Like for example, he plays Wrecking Ball in Overwatch, which that's mostly hamster noises. So that's what this kid wanted to do. Now, he couldn't have picked a tougher category to get into voiceover, the first category that you get into. Usually you do commercials, you get into animation over time. He picked like one of the toughest things ever. And it was all just growling noises for 3 minutes. I'm not joking around. It was growling noises for 3 minutes. By the way, not good growling noises. That's the part that upset me. I'm like, listen, if you're going to do 3 minutes of like monster growls, you got to make it at least kind of good. That was probably the worst I've ever heard. The best that's a tough one. I would say a lot of the people, when I was signed with AB² Talent in Los Angeles, they had everybody who was signed with them was really incredible. There's people who I'm training right now from MIT that I would say are the best. They're professors, they're music professors. So, and they've got beautiful singing voices. And I just started training 2 of them a little while ago, and they have the best demos that I've heard because they just got it. Like music people they kind of understand that there has to be a musical element to voiceover. You have different voices and cartoon characters and whoever it might be that have a very specific tone, that have a little bit of a musical sound, Yogi Bear. Like it's every one of these characters is so well thought out. So they probably had the best because they could do like a really good Southern accent. They could do kind of like you could ask them, do a Toyota commercial, and they'd be like, everybody loves Toyota, right? They'd be able to kind of do these different really great voices. Those were definitely the best ones that I've heard. I don't think I can pick one, but those 2 MIT professors that I'm training right now have the best talent from what I've seen, and the best demos for sure.
Nice. I mean, by the way, Obi actually just wrote in. I know from experience when working at the gas station, you can give out your cards. Just saying.
Oh, you can.
Okay. Personal experience here. But all right. So, Dan, anything to add on that, man?
No, as you were saying before, I'm brand spanking new to this. I'm actually cutting my demos first week of July. So this is I've always had a creative side to me, and finally the opportunity came for me to explore it and to get into it. And I've never been more excited in my life. And I'm working with some great professionals as well. And who gave me an honest assessment, gave me some good constructive criticism. Luckily, I'm very humble and can take constructive criticism very well. And I'm really looking forward to it. I think I have a lot to offer. And again, and just as you were saying at the top of the show, that I'm fortunate that where I live right now has a lot of opportunities, and I'm looking forward to exploring that further.
Sure. In this case, like I said, you're coming into it. I've dabbled a little bit in it, but I've never put a lot of time in, especially as I'm working with Spanglish and building everything here and all the other stuff that I've been doing. But in this case here, when it comes to building the studio, and this is something obviously we got to talk a lot about because of the fact that I just saw something on Facebook earlier today, someone asking the same kind of question. Now, Max, you and I have talked about blanket forts. I think you were talking about, it was the voice of, I think it was Ash, I think on Pokemon, used to just drape an entire blanket over the top of, the laptop and the mic and everything like that. In this case here, as bizarre as that sounds, how well does that work? And does it actually hold against you on something, basically on a live feed like this or Source Connect or anything like that?
It does work sound wise. the big part about, especially using voiceover microphones, like this is a voiceover microphone, it's condenser, it's very, very sensitive. It's going to hear echo, it's going to hear everything. And with that, having a blanket over my head is blocking out all of those, not only outside noises, but it's also helping to block out, the echo that comes from my walls, because most apartments or hotels aren't exactly designed like a recording studio is. Recording studios, right? You don't, houses just aren't built like that. So you kind of have to improvise. So they do work sound-wise. And I've recorded auditions for like Hollywood agents for big time gigs when I've been traveling. I will usually bring my mic equipment with me, but I can't exactly bring all this foam. I can't bring all this acoustic treatment with me. So it does work sound wise. Will it hold it against you in, let's say, an audition or an actual recording through an ISDN or Source Connect? It kind of depends. It really depends on if it's interfering with the session itself, both in sounds, like if you're rustling around a lot with your blanket, microphone's going to be able to hear that. And number two is if you are continuously saying like, oh, okay, let me give that again, like the blanket started falling on my head and you couldn't hear it, but it was disturbing my arm, or like it's, the whole thing. Or if I remember one time, because I'm an idiot, I thought it would be a good idea to do a weighted blanket. I was like, oh, then it won't move too much. And I think about 10 minutes into the session, I said to myself, well, I'm exhausted now, so this is not very practical. So if you can make it work and you can prop the blanket up enough that it's not interfering both with the sound of the microphone or making you uncomfortable, they're not going to hold it against you. Because the big expression with voiceover that not only counts for studio recordings, but also counts for just in general, when you're acting, nobody can see you, but they can hear you. And what that means is they can hear every little subtle detail. I always tell my students, voice acting is overacting. I've heard so many of the best voice actors always say this: voice acting is overacting. How you sound on the microphone live in your own ears is always going to be actually duller than what it comes out to be. So with that sensitivity in mind, pillow forts do work if you can reach the parameters of how it would sound in a studio recording. Again, some of the best do it. I follow Sarah Netacheni, current voice of Ash Ketchum. Ash Ketchum from Pokemon has had a couple different voice actresses. She's the current voice actress for it. I've seen her on her stories. She's just recording with a blanket over her head, because sometimes we got to travel. We got to go to a hotel. So you can make it work. You can make it work. And I've never really had a producer or anybody hold it against someone unless it interferes with the recording itself.
So yeah, as long as it works, they don't care about, the end result is more important than anything else.
Yeah, because it's not like when you're watching The Simpsons, before Hank Azaria comes on with one of his characters, they say, by the way, he recorded this in a pillow fort. So it doesn't, if the audience can't hear it and the director can't hear it, what does it actually matter?
And of course, also if they're playing music underneath, sometimes they can dull certain things. I've noticed that with the channel that I've got, that sometimes if the audio doesn't come in right, the music underneath can dull out a lot of the frankly crap that actually comes out of what I'm doing. So there's professional editors that are designed to do that. Now, you had mentioned also the overacting part of it. And when it comes to the overacting on voice acting, I don't know if you mentioned D. Bradley Baker, but staying inside the animation, Mark Hamill, if you've ever watched him do the voice of the Joker and how much he works, and basically there was a YouTube video where he did it for like Arkham City, the video game, and you see him in the booth. You got Kevin Conroy over here, who's very stoic, very Batman-esque, and you see him just going into the Joker and using the hands and just melding his entire body to be the Joker, because he's not on camera. So he can just go so far over the top with it, and no one's going to see him physically do it. And it's hilarious, but it's genius at the same time.
Yeah, it is, because we need to think of our bodies like we think of instruments when we're doing voiceover. Okay, you take a guitar and you strum it over and over and over again, it's going to make the exact same sound every single time. Put your hands and your fingers on specific frets, creating specific chords. You can create a song. You can create music. Your body has to be the same way. when you're talking to somebody, let's say you're angry, okay? When you're angry, are you really just like this, just sitting still and the whole thing? Maybe some people are. Some
That can
people
be
who
creepy
might
in
not
its own
use,
right.
yeah, it can come off a little creepy, but some people do that. Or when you're really happy, right? Like, I'm happy right now. I'm having a good time. I'm on a show. This is great, right? I'm using my arms a lot, and my facial expression is changing, and my voice is going to reflect that. We get back to this expression again. They can't see you, but they can hear you. If you're on the phone with somebody, you can tell when they're happy, when they're sad, when they're angry, when they're pissed, when they're all these emotions you can hear in their voice. But a lot of the times it's when they're angry, their fist is clenched and their teeth are gritted a little bit. When they're happy, they're smiling. I remember the first read I ever did for my first voiceover coach. It's 100% true story. This is the exact quote. Is I did a read for, it was just a random commercial. It was years ago, probably like a decade ago. So I don't remember what the commercial was for, but I did a read for this commercial. And he says, that was great if you want your listeners to kill themselves. And it immediately shocked me. And it's, I didn't know how to respond to that. I didn't know how to react to that. And I said, what the hell do you mean by that? And he said, you sound so depressed. And I was like, well, I was happy when I was reading it. And he said, it doesn't sound like you are. I need more of something. He said, why don't you smile? And it sounded so strange to me because I said, what does it matter if I smile? Nobody can see me. But I realized when you smile, right, the air out of your mouth comes out differently. Your tone comes out differently. Psychologists say when you're really sad, when you're going through depression, sometimes forcing yourself to smile can release endorphins. So your voice is going to follow your body's mood. And there's really no point in forcing against that and fighting against that. If a director says, give me happy, right? If you want to give them happy, you're smiling, your shoulders are back, you're excited, shoulders back for confident, right? You're sad, you're depressed, you're shy, shoulders forward, head down, we create these voices by moving our bodies in the same way a musician would play something on an instrument. It's the music of speech. So take a page out of music's book and utilize those same skills that musicians use. And that's what I love that you mentioned Mark Hamill's Joker, because talk about being expressive, right? With their body. And Mark Hamill, even in the roles that he plays, he's so expressive. He's a little bit like, and I feel like not enough people appreciate this. He has skills similar to Jim Carrey in the way that he uses so much of his body language to communicate. So when he translated that to the Joker, or when you have Kevin Conroy as Batman, that's a deep, low voice. Some people would think, okay, well, you should probably just cross your arms in the whole thing. No, he's got his fist up, right? Heroic in the whole thing. The Joker, it's a little more, maniacal, maybe creepy, odd, So them using their body language is just a brilliant example of you really got to go. You got to get a little wild in the voiceover booth if you want to create that sound. You got to get a little wild. Get weird. That's my advice to people. Get weird.
Get weird and be okay with it. So,
yeah, be okay with it.
So yeah, this is Tales from the Film Set. Thank you again. Find us always on Twitter at Film Set Tales and Facebook and Instagram at Tales from the Film Set. Alongside me also is Mr. Guest Host, Mr. Dan Goldhaber, Mr. Maxwell McGee, voice actor extraordinaire. Dan, thoughts, comments, ideas? What you got over there, sir?
As a student, I found Max's comments amazing, and it also confirmed a lot of what my own coaches have been saying to me as well when they were working with me, as far as just really letting it out when you're on there. My first coach worked with me as far as pacing, and sometimes I was going a little too fast for certain commercial reads. But then my most recent coach talked to me exactly what Max has been talking about here, about using your body and your voice as an instrument and to really let everything out. One of the reads for my upcoming demo was for a commercial read for a pizzeria, and the way it read out, he says to me, he goes, Dan, because he knows I'm from New Jersey, and he knew that probably all of my closest friends from New Jersey were Italian. So he says, Dan, he goes, I want you to let your Jersey out completely and read it. and you would have thought I was Dan Soprano by the time the read was over. And it was the only one of the reads that I did. First take, he says, "That was perfect. I want you to read it exactly like that when the demo comes." So I totally understand. In fact, about an hour before the show, I was going through through the scripts, and believe me, and Max, and I appreciate everything you've been saying here. It's helping me even more to prepare for for the upcoming weeks here. So again, I'm really looking forward, and I really appreciate your words of wisdom here.
Absolutely. I'm happy to be here again. This is, like I said before, my body language is natural. I'm having a great time.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I've been meaning to ask, what is behind you? It's an arcade game of some sort. I want to say it's like Centipede or Millipede, but it's not.
It is Galaga. Yep.
Galaga,
right.
of course. Okay.
So,
now I can see it when you turned a little bit.
Yeah. So it's
Respect.
one of those arcade one-up machines. It's like kind of the remastered versions. They're only about a couple $100. If you want like the real Galaga, those things are like $2,000. Crazy. But I got that a while ago, and I'm going to be honest, I never play it anymore. it was in my living room and I wouldn't play it. And then I put it in my studio. I'm thinking maybe between meetings, just to kind of keep my mind busy, I could play it. And it's just, I'm so sad. I really should play it more.
Good.
No, I was just saying, my brother actually has one of those machines that not only has Galaga, but it has it comes with like 300 other of the old arcade games in there too.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. Absolutely amazing. When I get together with him and my nephews, we go hog wild on it.
Yeah, I don't blame you.
But that's one of those things that you get it, and once the novelty wears off, it's kind of like a really oversized paperweight. I know, unfortunately, I've got that here with a few things too. It's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then the novelty wears off. It just becomes part of the furniture, and you feel guilt every time you look at it for its lack of use. So
Don't tell my financial advisor that, please.
What's that?
I said, don't tell my financial advisor that, please.
Sorry, when I was a financial advisor, I heard way worse than that.
If there's any way, Max, if you have the opportunity to, you can maybe trade that one out for something new. And this way, my brother does that with pinball machines. After he gets tired, he sells one or trades for another one, and then he changes up the room in his house where he keeps them. So, so that's something to consider.
It definitely is. I think just for the past year with the pandemic going on, it's like I was just collecting stuff because everyone and their mother was ordering from Amazon so much. So now I'm getting back into it and going like, all right, what can I shave off now that I can talk to another human being without fearing death? It's getting a little easier. But
one of the things you mentioned, obviously the pandemic and everything, how that worked. One weird small benefit, especially for those of us that live in suburban New Jersey, is I don't have to go into New York City anymore for voiceover auditions. That was always a big problem. In my case, I'm 8 miles west of the GW, but even still, to get into the city and get into Manhattan, wherever I got to go, it is still an expensive multi-hour process. And in this particular case, and obviously I think with technology being the way it is, and I want to segue this into Source Connect, a lot more work can be done remotely, and not just remotely, but remotely nationwide. So you can have entire episodes of stuff that are literally being recorded through Source Connect. I'm a little late to the damn this, but I finally finished the last episode of DuckTales about 2 weeks ago. And they got Keith David, who was the voice of Goliath back in the 90s on Gargoyles, to do the voice again for character specifically on the show for a one-off episode. And I have no doubt he recorded that from his house through Source Connect. Keith David's got the voice that he can just sit there, and Carr got a great career that way anyway. But like I said, I want to delve a little bit of time into the equipment itself, what to look for. Again, like I said, Source Connect, the importance of, I think, that or anything like it. So Max, do you want to just take over for this at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. Voiceover and audio equipment are two sides of the same coin. You want to get in the voiceover world, you got to understand at least the basics of audio. Mostly because, and it's funny, we're talking about the pandemic now, a lot of agencies closed their doors a little tighter at the start of the pandemic. I got that prediction wrong. I thought they were going to open the floodgates a little bit more now that so many people were home, but I foolishly realized I was like, no, that actually doesn't make a lot of sense, because now more than ever, people are going to think, oh, I'm a voice actor now that I'm home all the time. I can start sending in my auditions, people who aren't actually doing the work, who aren't getting trained, who aren't getting professional equipment. So the equipment is your biggest piece. It is your Excalibur. It is the only way you're going to broadcast your signal, that beautiful voice of yours, out to the studios that you're recording with. My number one thing I always like to preach with audio: start slow, even if you have the money to start fast. Always, always start slow. Unless you are a full professional audio engineer, either you went to college for it, you have tons of experience in audio, start slow. The biggest problem that a lot of people have is they have a lot of money, so they go out and buy a $3,800, $4,000 Neumann U87 microphone. And then they open it up and they're like, wait, how does this plug into my computer? Why isn't it? Where's the USB cable for this? And then they go online and they say, well, I need an XLR cable. Okay, I'll get an XLR cable. Oh, wait, I need an interface. Well, what kind of interfaces are there, right? There's a USB interface. What if I get a mixer? A mixer's cheaper. Why don't I try? I could keep going and going and going and going. It branches off to a million different subjects. Always, always, always start slow. Think about, what do you need? If tomorrow a studio was going to say, we need you to record a professional sounding audition and send it to us, really what you need is, you need first and foremost your microphone. Your microphone is going to be huge. And a condenser microphone like I have right here, this is the Aventone CV12. It's something that Taylor Swift has actually used on some of her records. I love it. It's a beautiful microphone. Not really necessary, right? Especially when you're first starting off, not really necessary. I get this because I got about a dozen microphones because I am an audio engineer. That's what I've done for so long. It's not necessary. So that's step two. Think about what is actually necessary. Number one, you need a microphone. And it's got to be a good mic. If you are sending half or crappy quality audio to the audio engineers, the directors, producers, whoever it is, you're wasting their time. It's got to be excellent, or don't send anything. So the microphones that I usually recommend people start off with are either a USB mic or an XLR microphone, but go with a dynamic. Usually microphones are split into those two categories of dynamic, and then you have condenser microphones. Most condenser microphones are very sensitive. Just like even a little bit of a tap and you can hear it reverberate throughout your ears. Dynamic microphones are awesome because they're inexpensive. Most of them are invincible. In fact, my audio professor in college, as a joke one time, was like, hey, Maxwell, catch. And threw, I think it was an SM58, I believe, which is a handheld mic.
Which is literally what I have over here.
Yep. Well, that exact microphone, now imagine a professor throwing it at you, and threw it about 4 feet away from me. And I panicked and was about to catch it. And then he freaked out on me. He's like, I can't believe you didn't catch that. You destroyed the microphone. And then I picked it up and I said, wait, it's fine. And he was like, and that's your lesson. And I said, I hate you so much. I was terrified. What kind of professor does that? He made his point, though, because I would say, I think the next day I went out and bought a H.E.R product. I brought a H.E.R SM7B, which I still own to this day, almost 10 years later. Still a great microphone. So dynamic microphones, they are durable. They are practically invincible. I don't recommend testing that by beating it with a bat. I mean, if it falls, you'll probably be fine. That's what I mean by invincible. And they're easy to use. Most of them are plug and play. So a H.E.R SM7B is an XLR mic. You take an XLR cable, right? It's one of these cables here. It's kind of hard to see on the mic because it's plugged in and it's strapped in, but like an XLR mic like this, you plug it into the microphone, and then you plug it into the next step, which is known as usually an interface, a mixer. You need a little bit of a bridge in between your computer and your microphone. You usually don't need that if you have a USB mic. A USB mic is just, you take the microphone, plug the cord into the USB mic's port, and then plug the USB into your computer, and then you're set up and you're ready to go. The microphones I'm talking about are ones, if you want to start off with a really good quality, not to say USB mics aren't good quality, but these ones are really excellent. Dynamic microphones are awesome. And I also suggest them because an investment needs to last you a long time. It's if you're going to spend $400 on a Shure SM7B, you want to make sure it's something you're going to have for years. I've had mine for almost 10 years. If I take little felt and dust off the windscreen, you would think it was brand new. There are no scratches. There are no marks. There is nothing. I take decent care of it, and it looks brand new. Again, almost sounds brand new. It's awesome. So when you're buying equipment for voiceover, it's got to be an investment. You got to be willing to spend some extra bucks for that high quality. So, for example, a Shure mic, you plug into an interface, and then the interface then plugs into your computer. And your interface is a little bit like your bridge. Your interface, you can control your gain, right? How loud is your microphone going to be? How much of your voice can it hear? Turn the gain up and blast it, and you yell into the microphone, it's going to sound terrible, right? Turn the gain down too low, it's going to be quiet. Nobody's going to be able to hear you. You get it just right, levels are perfect, and you're good to go. That's kind of more of a higher quality setup without getting too crazy. And I mentioned the Neumann U87. Neumann products are crazy expensive. You want to start off with great quality that you could use 10 years down the line. A Shure microphone, an XLR cable, a good interface, and a computer can really help you get going. USB microphones are another good option. I have a couple. I really do like them. We all know and love, especially since the start of the pandemic when everybody was getting into voiceovers and podcasting, the Blue Yeti, right? Everybody, you hear that all over the place. You see them all the time. The Blue Yeti is a nice USB mic. It's about $100 mic. I like it personally. Basically, you take the Blue Yeti, you plug your headphones into it, plug a cable into it, plug it in your computer, and you're good to go as far as recording goes. So especially when you're starting off, I would say that's a really good option, is to take it slow, focus on the basics, right? I need a microphone. Does my microphone need extra stuff to plug into my computer? Or I need a microphone. If it's a USB mic, I plug it in. Then you can start thinking about other pieces of technology. But really, that's your number one thing you want to think about is your microphone, because the rest can come a little bit easier. Scott, we talked about this before. I love pillow fort vocal booths. Right? Your microphone, when you yell into it, and you're in a room like this, mine has a bunch of foam on the walls and everything. But when you're in a room with no foam, you got nothing like that, it's going to echo, right? You're going to hear your voice 100 times over going into your microphone, and you want to get rid of that. I always tell people, again, the same thing. You want to take it slow. If you need to, you make a pillow fort, all right? You make a pillow fort around your microphone. You're really cozy. Hell, put some I had a friend of mine, I was helping her create a podcast. She's a personal trainer. She wanted to create a personal training podcast. And she said, is there anything else I can put in this booth? And I was like, as long as it doesn't make noise. And she put Christmas lights inside her pillow fort. I'm going to be honest. I looked at that and I said, I hate you, because that's even cozier than my current $30,000 home studio. And I'm really upset that you spent $10 on some Christmas lights. Made it look real nice.
Dan?
Dan?
Just as a quick comment here, and going more towards movies here, what about the any truth to the trick from Hustle and Flow where they put egg cartons on the walls to help keep out the sound? That's a even less expensive way of putting something together, I would think.
Absolutely. Because you really are just trying to block out that echo. Make sure that your voice, that sound, also known as flutter echo, doesn't bounce off the walls. Blankets work too. You could put blankets over the windows, on the walls. I'm going to tell people especially what audio companies, a lot of audio engineering companies might not want people to know. This is overpriced. All this stuff here, it looks good. That's it. It looks good. This does the same thing as, for example, a blanket or whatever. Now that's kind of a general statement. I've got some audio engineering friends I can hear in my head going like, no, wait a minute. And they're right. There is more specifics to it. This type of very thick foam is designed in a certain way to make, for example, like a control room sound a certain way. Now, the reason I keep saying certain way is because that certain way splits off into 30 different ways. We do not have the time. But really blanket when you're doing voiceovers, you want to deaden the room. That's the term that you hear all the time. Deaden the room. Someone should hear your voice and your voice only. Okay. Not birds outside, not your kids outside of the room, not echo coming off of the walls, just your voice. Because the worst expression in multimedia is I'll fix it in post. There is always a chance you won't be able to fix it in post. Some things cannot be fixed. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. All of us being media people, we hear that sometimes from rookies who come into the game who that's what they say. I'll fix it in editing. That's not what editing is.
5 big words.
Yeah, the five big final words, famous last words.
Yes.
Editing is to polish and put together a clean product. All right. It's just like cooking. Cooking is editing. What happens if you have crappy ingredients? It's going to come out crappy, right? Your meal is going to come out terrible. If you have a bunch of cracked clams, old clams, your linguine with clams, I don't care if you're Gordon Ramsay, it's going to taste like crap. It's going to taste awful. So it's good to think of that in translation to audio as well. Your audio has to be clean. Editing is to take out breaths, take out empty space, timing, right? It needs to play at this certain time when this character on this show is saying this at this time to this other character. That's what editing is for. Maybe a little EQ and compression, right? Make the sound a little bit more present, make it cleaner, right? Modify the high end, the low end, and just kind of make the sound a little bit cleaner. It is not designed, audio engineers are not there for you in a session to fix all of your mistakes. So it's the same thing with the Pillow Fort vocal booth. They are not, you don't make a rustling sound and then a director says, can you redo that? We kind of heard a sound in the background. Your response should not be, I'll just fix it in post. It's fine. It's fine. That's a bad impression. People don't like that. That's not the audio engineer's job. So you
or the
want
film editor either.
Oh yes, or the film editor. That's 100%. Do not tell the film editor, oh, you could just splice it together, right? You can just you can fix that.
That could
right?
even be worse than audio editing.
Oh yeah, it's you know the I've worked with actors before. I couldn't agree more. It's sometimes it can be absolutely terrifying. But the big part about audio is you can always take it from kind of a slow standpoint of make it clean. If you can get a microphone, if your microphone needs to be plugged into your computer, or if you can get a USB mic, you can take a blanket over your head, foam on the walls, egg cartons on the walls. That's what you want to look out for. And you have those two types of qualities. A USB microphone is going to be good. It's not necessarily going to be great, though. It's not going to be too amazing. Audio could be subjective. I've had some people disagree with me before and say, you know what? I've heard great USB mics that are good for all voiceovers. I don't necessarily agree. I think you don't have to spend a fortune to have a good studio. Shure SM7B is about $400. You can get an XLR cable, a nice one for $30 or $40, a good interface for $300, $400, right? Mic stand, a cheap mic stand for $20. It's good to have perspective. Studios like that decent studios used to cost $30,000, right? Or even potentially more. Now you can get a great setup for $1,000. It sounds expensive, but it's important to have that perspective of how expensive. Oh yes, very big.
And can't forget that part.
So, yeah, that is my favorite part. Is I do tax write-offs every time. But that's what's great about audio is go to Sweetwater, go to Guitar Center, ask around, and always think to yourself, take it slow. I need a microphone. I need a way to get it onto my computer. I need a way to block out outside noises. If you follow that path, and also going by some of my recommendations of the Shure SM7B or Focusrite interfaces. I love Focusrite, very affordable. And most Windows and Mac laptops, really those are the things that you need. Those are the most important things for getting clean audio.
So we got about 15 minutes left at this point. Haven't actually touched the other topic, the anniversary topic that I wanted to go into. But I'm Scott Churchson, alongside me, Mr. Dan Goldhaber, and Mr. Maxwell McGee, voiceover artist and teacher and consultant and Galaga fan on occasion. So you can always find us on Twitter at Film Set Tales and Tales from the Film Set on Instagram or on Facebook, either or. One quick thing I wanted to throw out there before we get to, like I said, the anniversary that I wanted to talk about. Dan and I talked about this beforehand. When it comes to the editing part of it, Audacity, Premiere, or Final Cut, or something else?
That's a good question. Editing, especially for voiceover, Audacity is actually pretty good. I think Audacity has done amazing work. I think, especially, I shouldn't say Audacity, it's open source. So people who have worked on Audacity and have contributed to that community have done an amazing job. Most basic voiceovers, introductory voiceovers, can survive with Audacity. Once you get into the bigger professional gigs that are paying a couple $100 an hour, a couple thousand, agency work, you're doing, local regional commercials, you need something a little bit more on the professional side. My recommendation that I always swear by, especially because I've been teaching it for many, many years, and I do it now for my consulting business too, is Adobe Audition. The reason being, Adobe is awesome. I do love them as a company, but I also love that if you learn Audition, it kind of gives you a little bit of a pathway to learning other Adobe products. The problem with something like Avid Pro Tools, right? Pro Tools is very advanced. The learning curve is kind of crazy. And we spent 4 years learning Pro Tools when I was in college. 4 years. I'm still, 10 years later, still learning more things about it. Adobe Audition is great. It's inexpensive. There's tons of tutorials online. Introductory work, Audacity. Once you get into more advanced stuff, I would probably recommend Adobe Audition for editing. I love it. It does a lot of stuff.
Nice. But cut your teeth first on Audacity because it is free of charge, and then get what you pay for after that.
Oh, 100%. Because Audacity is great exposure to how editing software works.
And it's funny, when I learned Audition, I learned Audacity first. So ironically enough, a lot of the stuff that I learned from Audacity did carry over. It's a little different in how it actually is done, but the basics and the knowledge still carried. So admittedly, some of the assignments that I had done when I went back to school for it, the audio ones were not actually necessarily done through Audition. They were done through Audacity out of the house. So I did cheat a little bit on my my Audition classes, but we won't tell. You can't take my certification back from me at this point.
Listen, I'm not going to try.
No, you're not. You can't do it anyway. Place isn't there anymore.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we got about 10 minutes left. Dan and I had talked about this earlier. There are 2 anniversaries that have actually happened today in the Hollywood arena that I wanted to address. And Max, I want to get your take on which one, frankly, makes you feel older. What we have Karate Kid was released 37 years ago today.
Wow.
And the first Fast and the Furious movie was released 20 years ago today. Now, my take, Fast and the Furious makes me feel older because it doesn't feel like it's been 20 years.
Yeah,
the thing is, if you don't mind saying, you feel older because now with Cobra Kai, it's a whole new generation. So you feel younger watching those kids running around.
True.
And meanwhile, you have Fast and Furious, right? If it's not Vin Diesel, you got The Rock, and you got Michael was Statham in there, right?
Yeah,
they were in the last one. Yeah, Jason Statham. I'm sorry. Yeah, I saw that last one, Hobbs and Shaw one. So I can understand why you'd feel a little older among the Fast and Furious.
Well, also in the first one, they were dealing with stolen DVD players. In this one coming out on Friday, supposedly they're going out into space.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's not confirmed, but boy, does it really look like basically they're actually going to go. They've been progressing with these movies. I watched the first 7 or 8 for the first time, like in a bunch. So I started out with the first one where it's like machine guns on motorcycles, and then eventually they're literally taking the planes, they're taking the cars and driving them out of planes. They're doing all these kind of things just to outperform the last one. And on Friday it looks like they're literally going out into space.
My best friend and I were talking about this the other day, and because we had seen the commercials for F9, and he looks at me, he says, "Dan," he says, "how long can they keep doing this?" And he says, "I don't get how can they keep doing this." I said, "Are you kidding me? As long as people will keep going, they'll keep making it. They'll find more reasons, more things to do out in space or wherever, and let's be prepared as we get older. Eventually, there'll be the Fast and Furious reboot, okay, where they go back to the original and cast all new people, okay, and do it all over again with the next generation. You can bank on it in the next 10 years that they'll have some new cast in there, new crew redoing it, and they'll have Vin Diesel maybe with a walker, to kind of send him off into
teach the new generation kind of a thing.
Exactly.
Well,
the way the new Star Trek's with Chris Pine and that crew, right? Mm-hmm. People will keep going to see it as long as the car crashes and the cars are amazing, and and hot women in there, and keep it going. That's
you just shut your brain off. What's that?
Yeah, I said in the theme about family.
Family, yeah, you got to say. You got to say it deep, like family.
Family, every single time. It's just always about family. It's the same. Yeah.
No, go ahead.
I love the idea that in 2021 we've got a lot of amazing technology, but really what people are excited about is Vin Diesel going to space. That's my favorite part. It does make me feel old because I remember watching the first Fast and Furious, and it feels at most 5 years ago. So I remember watching it going, "Oh, these effects are so cool." And then I watched it again the other day, and I said, "Oh my God, these effects suck. How did I think this was the greatest thing ever?" It reminds me of when people first saw Star Wars, it blew their mind. And then all of a sudden CGI actually came out. Movies actually had CGI, and they said, "I cannot believe I ever thought Star Wars had good effects." And it happens every 10, 20 years. I cannot believe we thought that whatever movie it is had good effects. And Fast and Furious, they'll do whatever it takes to keep making.
Except Terminator 2. That one still holds up 30 years later amazingly.
Oh yeah, I still am obsessed with that movie. I Schwarzenegger, it's amazing to see how far we had come in filmmaking when we kind of look at that film, and it wasn't cheesy. That's my favorite part about it, is that it is really timeless. The effects with that they felt timeless, and terrifying.
Yeah, but the original Terminator still holds up. I mean, not so much with the special effects, but I thought the performances for what it was amazing. I mean, people don't talk about Michael Biehn enough for some of that was a great performance for him. And then of course he was in Aliens later, and he was great in that film too. That was a scary movie. That was once considered one of the best horror movies around.
That was actually considered to be more of a horror film than obviously the ones later on became more of an action film. But that one, that was a scare factor in there.
And the original Alien was considered a horror movie.
Which frankly it was.
Yes.
As a kid, I remember seeing Aliens, plural, as a kid, and that to me was a horror film also. And that's probably why I have a problem with like entrapment films, where you just know they're around. I can't handle that in general. So like the Final Destination movies, I'm terrible with stuff like that because that entrapment feeling just does not do well for me. And as a result, Aliens, plural, was such an entrapment film for me. But so, okay. So I guess the general rule is we feel older based on the fact that Fast and the Furious is 20 as opposed to Karate Kid being 37. Additionally, also turning 20 this year is the first Harry Potter movie and the first Lord of the Rings movie, both of which probably will also be rebooted at some point, holding to what Dan's going to say, and I don't disagree with you on that one. I've been to Harry Potter World in London. I highly recommend it if you ever get the chance, because boy, you see a lot of stuff that never showed up in the film. But all right, so we got. Good.
I was just saying, but I think the Lord of the Rings movies hold up too. I thought
I agree.
They do.
Right?
I agree.
Not the Hobbit films, but the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. The Lord of the Rings movie really hold up. I mean, the acting performances were outstanding, and of course the CGI and special effects were, ahead of its time for 2001.
My first credit too by technicality.
Wow.
Yes. In the 4-disc Lord of the Rings set, if you paid to join the fan club, they put your name in the credits. So my first actual film credit of any sort is Lord of the Rings Fellowship.
Oh, if only I knew.
Like, well, it was well worth $99 20 years ago. So
Sure.
Yeah.
So we got to wrap this up. I got about 5 minutes left. I think you probably just saw the little notification there. Any final thoughts? Let me start with Dan in this case. Any final thoughts from you? Comments, ideas, compliments, complaints?
No, this has been a great experience. I appreciate you having me on here today.
No problem.
Like I
Yeah,
said,
this is your first one since I'm trying to work on new hosts and everything. So
this is
Sorry, Max,
my rookie. This is my rookie campaign. So my first podcast, and soon to be doing my first voiceover work, and it's very exciting. And I'm sure as we get down to like the week before the demo, the nerves are going to start building up in me day by day. And my coach had said to me, he goes, if you thought you were stone cold ready on that day, he goes, I'd be worried. He goes, you should be nervous but you're going to be fine. So I'm looking forward to it. I can't wait.
nice. Max?
Beautiful. Well, first off, good luck, Dan. I totally agree with your coach. Nerves are amazing. They don't feel it, but nerves are amazing. Well, listen, thank you so much, Scott, for having me on. This has been such a wonderful experience. And
if we could do it
again,
again, I'd like to.
Absolutely. I'd be more than willing to do that. And if anybody wants voiceover coaching or coaching of any kind, the consulting company is McGee Communications Consulting at gmail.com. You can also check out our website, McGeeCommunicationsConsulting.com. And love to hear from some people because trying to share the knowledge and the expertise with the world. But this has been such a great experience. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. No, thank you. Actually, you and I have basically gone back and forth for a while, and you went back and forth with my reel on some stuff. And, I picked your brain on a lot of different things. And so, yeah, no, I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful to you, too. So that is actually going to do it for us. Like I said, this is Tales from the Film Set. Normally, like I said, we talk about the experiences that we've had in film, behind the scenes, how things are done. But a voice acting show was one I really, really wanted to do. So thank you, both of you guys, for that. I really appreciate it. This show is available on 35 different platforms across 4 different continents, soon to be 5 by my understanding. Sadly, Antarctica is not one of them yet, but we're on the hit list for that. But yeah, we're not missing it. We're not really missing too many people down in Antarctica at the moment. But this is available, like I said, on 35 different platforms. Zingo TV is a division of Fox and therefore Disney. So look out for that. It's easy to find it. As for me, I'm Scott Churchson. You can find this show also on Twitter at Film Set Tales, and also on Tales from the Film Set on Instagram and on Facebook. Every day I will post new trivia, new information, usually centering on videos to keep it interesting, just because of the fact that, people want to learn stuff, water cooler stuff. So check it out if you haven't already. Anyway, as for myself, Mr. Dan Goldhaber and Mr. Maxwell McGee, this is Tales from the Film Set. Thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Have a great night and be awesome.